This week, we talk about some topics that you never hear people talk about, and we talk about it with the only Australian ever to qualify for the Bassmaster Elite Series, the only Australian ever to win a Bassmaster Elite Series event, Bassmaster Classic qualifier. He tells you to fear his heart, and you better. The Thunder from Towamba, Carl Jocumsen, joins me this week on...
I'm Bob Cobb from the Bassmaster. Welcome to Mercer.
Welcome all, friends, family, freeloaders, fishing freaks. You're all welcome here at the Awkwardly Honest Fishing Podcast that goes by my last name, which is Mercer. So welcome in, cozy up, and let's have a conversation about many things this week. First of all, I thank you guys for joining this show. And one of the biggest stories this week, and I found myself obsessed with it, and that was Kevin Van Dam's final tournament, final regular season tournament. He is fishing, I guess, heavy hitters and Redcrest, I believe, next year. But his final regular season event, and man, did he get close to winning it. Congrats to Matt Becker, who won that event, and also won Angler of the Year at MLF, so congrats to him. And Kevin Van Dam finished second in that event, his final regular season event. And it's weird because you guys know how close I am to Kevin and how much he means to me. And you would think I would have no problem talking about that. And I don't. But it's just like such an astronomical career that he's had. And I just feel like I should say something. I mean, I should feel like I should say, and it's weird because I've done a bunch of these. I've done some podcasts and things like that where people will ask about Kevin, and I always feel the same. I feel like I'm stumbling over my words because I feel like dude's done so much, it's so hard to fit it in. It really is. I mean, sure, almost $8 million in earnings and 25 Bassmaster titles, I believe 4 MLF titles. I don't need to list it. 7 Angler of the Years, 4 classic titles, all of that. I mean, it's amazing, and everybody's going to talk about that. But to me, I think Kevin's more than that. Kevin is definitely that guy that we're all going to brag about in the future. Yeah, I watched when Kevin Van Dam was competing, and he's not going to disappear. I mean, we're probably going to see more of Kevin because he's going to be at trade shows and all sorts of stuff for many years to come. But Kevin Van Dam smashed every record there is in this sport. He changed this sport in every single angle of it, whether it be on the water, off the water, in the boardroom, in the meeting room, at trade shows. Kevin Van Dam is the standard. What he's accomplished in this sport is amazing. But to me, what the most amazing thing about Kevin Van Dam is truly Kevin Van Dam. I mean, Kevin Van Dam, at a time when we are just bombarded with people saying, you got to run in the gray, you got to, push the limits to win. Kevin Van Dam had the most dominant career in the history of professional angling and did none of that. Kevin Van Dam set the standard on every single element of the sport, every single way that we look at it. He set the standard. And to see Kevin walk away, first of all, congratulations. I know you're not going to get much time off because you're going. Number one, he's not that dude. He's not that dude who just can have a place in Boca Raton and chill and not do anything. I mean, he's a very active person. So Kevin's going to be doing a lot of different stuff in this industry, I'm sure, and it's going to be fun to watch. But most of all, dude, I want to thank you and congratulate you on your retirement. Kevin Van Dam, I want to thank you for your friendship, for everything that you have done for me and my family. And this is a thank you that goes out not just to you, but to Sherry, to Jackson, to Nicholas, to your whole family. I mean, the amazing thing about the Van Dams is you stay at their house and you feel like one of the family. I mean, literally, I used to always make a joke that if I was a Van Damme, I'd be DVD, which would make me an obsolete piece of technology. But at least I'm a piece of technology at some point. But it's an amazing family, an amazing person, an amazing legacy. And I thank you. Thank you for being the person you are. I thank you for leading the sport. And I'm sure you're going to continue to lead the sport. But Kevin Van Dam, I don't know whether this was the right tribute. But all I keep thinking is thank you. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a mentor. Thank you for being somebody who I looked up to. And they say don't meet your idols. I say just choose better idols. Because Kevin Van Dam was my idol growing up. I met him, became very close friends with him, and probably idolize him more today than I ever did when I was a little kid. So never mind that crap about not meeting your idols. Just pick better idols, because Kevin Van Dam never let me down, never let the sport down. And congratulations. Congratulations on walking away on your terms. Congratulations for being the dude you are. And thanks for being the person that erases that crap where people say don't meet your idols. Because I met one, and now he's one of my best friends. So we will move on. That was babbly and blah, 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 blah. Hopefully there's some legible stuff in there. Like I said, it's weird because I just have so many different feelings about Kevin, both personally, just in many, many different ways. You know what I mean? Through business, through person. I mean, I'm probably not doing this show if it's not for Kevin Van Dam. And probably none of this is happening. You know, I'm still fishing for a living, but dude is an incredible person. His family's incredible. And thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Van Dams. So on to this week's show, and it is a good one. And we talk about some stuff this week that, here's the weirdest thing. We dig real deep this week. You know, Bob Cobb used to have a saying, and I say it all the time on the stage, the thrill of victory and the agony of angling. Obviously a spin-off of the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, but that's the angling version. And there's a side to angling that people don't get to see a lot, just because it is, I mean, that's how the world we live in. You don't get to see the other end of things. And I'm going to, this week, speak with one of the most positive people in this entire industry. But we're going to talk about some stuff that wasn't positive. Some moments that he had his back against the wall. Some moments where some stuff he's never even talked about. And every angler goes through it. Not just every angler, but every person chasing their dreams. And I feel like there's a lot of things you can do in a podcast. There's controversial stuff that is guaranteed to get you traffic. But this is one of those shows that, I'd be totally honest, I don't care how many people watch it, because the people that do watch it, and I think it will be many, but the people that do watch it, there's going to be people that need this show. You know how I know that? Because you're looking at one of them. This conversation, I went into thinking, you know, this will be a neat thing to talk about. It started with a post that Carl Jocumsen made in social media, and it really just kind of sparked us talking. And it turns out, in some ways, I needed this conversation as well. So without further ado, let's hook up with the Thunder from Towamba, Carl Jocumsen. Carl Jocumsen, how are you?
Hi, mate. How you going?
Good. I'm trying to pile in like a bunch of podcasts real quick so I can go fishing. Really, that's my life. I mean, I'm shooting podcasts all day because I promised the fine viewers that I'd have one here every Wednesday. And then when we have a bunch of tournaments, and I like to go fishing. So thank you for making time for me today so that I can
Cool.
go fishing tomorrow.
I think that's what we all do. Just work hard so you can go fishing. That's what everyone does.
It's
what I
really
see.
true. It's a I mean, I never grew up saying, oh, I want to be on TV or I want to be an announcer, but it's all just like a means to an ends for this drug that is a fish.
Yeah. It'll make you do some stupid things, whatever you can do.
Some people will travel halfway across the world.
Yeah. Hey, we'll have to have a talk about Tommy while we're here too, because Tommy's got a story.
Wow. Does he ever have a story?
Yeah.
Let's get into Tommy real quick before we get into what I wanted to talk to you about. But Tommy Wood, an incredible handle I've always loved his name. And he came up and he backed it up, dude. Like he spent 3 months here.
Yeah.
All his savings and everything to be here. Won from the back of the boat. I mean, he had to be on cloud 9.
Yeah. So for people listening right now, Tommy is an Aussie that is trying to follow in my footsteps a little bit, and this has been his dream for a long time too. And I've known him since he was a real little kid back in Australia, and I knew his dad. And they fished the Barramundi tour, and he just sort of came up, and I hadn't seen him for years, but he'd obviously been following my journey over here. And then when Gussie and I went over to the Barra tour, they stayed with us, and sort of Steve Morgan and those guys that run that tour, they purposely put me and Gussie, I think, with Tommy and that, so he knew he was going to hit us with a bunch of questions. And so over that 3 weeks, Tommy just picked me and Gussie apart with how do I make it happen? And sort of both of us had different opinions on how we'd do it. And I laid out a bit of a plan, said, hey, if this was me now, this is what I would do. I wasted a bunch of time sort of in California, and I didn't have a game plan, and I was just fishing, and I blew a lot of money just in la la land a little bit, just trying to figure it out. And I'm like, this is what you need to do. 3-month window, come in, fish as many opens from the back of the boat as you can, go as a marshal in the elites as many times as you can, come and see the classic, go to the expo, meet people. And that was in November last year. And sure enough, he did it, and he followed it to a T, and it was awesome. And he came and watched the classic. He just did everything perfect. He's got his head screwed on. He's a good young kid. And I want to help him because he's just got that right attitude. He's got the appreciation, the manners, all of those things that you want to see, and the passion. And he's a really, really good angler. And yeah, a bunch of the Canadians took him fishing. I got to take him out glide bait fishing. Then he wins Wheeler. I think he top 10 a couple, and then he wins Wheeler. And so like you just couldn't have asked for a better start. And then he came to our place here, and he's like wondering what he's going to do for the next stint, whether he should go home and save. And I'm like, hey, if you want to come back, I'm like, you can just jump in the truck with me, come down to ICAST, do ICAST, meet some of the sponsors and some more people there. We'll fish in Florida. Then you can come up with me. I'll save you some money. You don't have to pay us. And he can fish smallmouth, do the 3 smallmouth Marshall tournaments, get your smally experience, then go home, and now you'll be set. Well, he flies in, lands, I'm in ICAST, I'm going to go and pick him up, and I get a phone call from like the immigration, like, do you know who Tommy Wood is? And I'm like, yeah. And then they hammered him, and he got his dates mixed up, and he stayed 1 day over his ESTA visa in the last trip. And so they did not look lightly on that, and they absolutely hammered him. I mean, they grilled him like he was a criminal. And next day had a flight straight out from there, straight back to Australia. And so
just turned
him around and flew him back to Australia the next day.
Wow.
So 16-hour flight and 14 home or whatever. And so, yeah, he's back in Australia, and now he's going to have a little pretty good solid battle on his hands. He's going to have to get attorneys and try and figure out how to get a visa and get back over here legally. So all part of the journey. I feel him. I definitely ran into things like that, but that one's a tough one because they're not going to look lightly on that for a while. So I'm hoping he can get the right support and get behind it. But
wow. So his original visa allowed him to be here for 90 days, right? Or in America for 90 days. And he stayed for 91.
He flew out on the 91st day.
Wow.
And they seen that as him being basically an illegal immigrant, and that's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that you're right. He's going to have a battle ahead of him.
It's all for a reason. For some reason that happened. I don't know. So we're gonna see how bad he wants it. He's gonna have to fight tooth and nail to try and get back here. You know, that's the craziest part about this whole journey from coming from Japan or Australia or anywhere. It's just getting here and getting enough time to be able to experience it, to lock yourself in. It's that in itself is one of the toughest battles, let alone trying to catch a bass.
So what costs, just for people who have no idea, what do you think a trip like that? I mean, that's all gone now, whatever he spent on his flight, and they don't give it back to you when if he gets it on the visa, they're not going to be like, here's the money. So how much money has he lost in something like this?
He's like, the flights were probably $4,000. So he just lost that straight up. And then, just all the little bits and pieces in between there would have cost him a fortune. For me, over from 2011 till 2022, I've spent $40,000 on legal fees to live in America legally.
Wow.
So I've had
just on legal fees.
That's government and attorney fees to get a 01 visa. And then I had like a 1 year one, then I had a 3 year, a 3 year, a 3 year. They were all like $6,000 hits. And then I could turn that into a green card if I wanted through the 01. And then Kayla and I got married. And instead of going that route, we did it through getting married. And I got a green card that way. And then that was like another $7. And then the interviews and all of that. And then after, because we were married under 2 years, we had to do it again. And we just did it again.
Wow.
I'm hoping that's the last of anything of that I ever want to see. But yeah, it's not good. When I got my backpack stolen out of the truck that time in 2014, it cost about $15,000 because he stole my passport. So I didn't have my legal stuff, and I had to drive to Washington, DC, check into the Australian embassy. And then straight from there, I had to directly drive to Dallas and fly out. I wasn't allowed to stay here.
Wow.
So I had to book all new flights, go home, get a new passport, sort all my 01 visas out again. It was, that was wild.
A nightmare.
Something about Aussies trying to get over here. Poor old Tommy just got 3 months in, and then his first hurdle.
Wow. So is he just as driven? Has it, or is there a little bit taken?
I think he's, I think it's just going to take him a lot longer. He just from what I've texted him and talked to him, he's like, I'm going to come back, but it's like 2025. Like he's going to miss a whole year where he could have been sort of potentially coming in next year and fishing some out of the boat or something like that, and just building on it, because that's what you need. You just need to keep over here, keep in front of people, keep fishing and making contacts, and just being able to stay here long enough. That's just the toughest thing, is getting here legally and being able to fish. That's 3/4 of the battle.
I couldn't imagine it. I mean, obviously I'm from a different country, but things are a little easier coming from Canada than it is from Australia.
Yeah.
But dude, that's kind of the reason we got talking about doing this show together. Not specifically Tommy Wood. And if anybody in the world that's listening to this can help him, Hey,
Yeah.
let us know in the comments. You will you can help somebody who's working really hard towards their dreams. But Bob Cobb used to have a saying, and I say it quite often in honor of him, but he would say the thrill of victory and the agony of angling. And
Yeah.
you made a post that to me screamed the agony of angling. And I thought we could talk about that because it's something that nobody ever talks about. I mean, but it's a reality. Like, it happens every week. And you guys are all chasing your dreams, but why somebody cries on the stage when they win, in my opinion, isn't that they're so happy they won. They're so happy that it finally happened because they came over so many hurdles. And not everyone's from Australia, but everybody faces hurdles in this sport. Tell me about that post and your thoughts about posting it.
Yeah, I've actually, I get some motivation sometimes when I'm, feeling a certain way, and I'll film something like that, but I'm sort of reluctant to post it. And sometimes I don't. And I had filmed that, and it was just sort of off the whim. I got back from a run and felt really good, and just was thinking about a lot of different things. And I showed it to Kayla, and she said, I think a lot of people get a lot out of that. I think you should post it. And I end up doing, and that is what happened. And I wasn't sure how it was going to come across, or you just never know, but I probably received more messages than any other thing I've ever done of people saying, I just really needed to hear that today. Thank you. And it was super cool. But, I've lived through and felt all of those pains. I feel like now I'm not on the other side. Like, you're always going to have that, but I've come through that journey, and it's what I'm most appreciative about, having like a lot of adversities and going through, because I've got a bit of a story to tell now. And when I can see someone that's going through it, I feel like I can say, hey, it's not actually going to be the end of the world, even though it feels like it right now. And I just want, I want to be able to help people. I like helping people. I feel like I'm lucky to have a good mindset and I'm lucky in a few different ways of how I think. And I feel like I do need to use that a little bit more to help as many people as I can, because I'm strong enough to battle through that. And those battles that I went through where I didn't think I was strong enough made me strong enough to be here now and to handle like what happened at Sinclair and just get through it and be ready to go that afternoon and dust it off, where I potentially could have sat in that sadness for a week and with my shoulders down and being like, why me? And let it ruin a week of my life or more, or all of those things. And I seen an angler that night at the campground, and he just like, I could just see the look of defeat in his face. And we talked for about 15 minutes, and I just told him that we're all going through it. And when he realized I was feeling exactly the same, it made him feel better, because it wasn't just him feeling that, it was me, and it was the next guy, and it was the next camper down. And I just don't like how much it makes you feel like a loser when you don't do well, where you're not a loser. You're going to fish next week, and it's going to happen to a next group of guys. And just that one event doesn't define you as the best smallmouth fisherman in the world or the worst, just because you did, the difference between 18 pounds and catching 19 is nothing. And that was the difference between you being a hero or way outside the cut. And that feeling is probably the single most toughest thing that I don't think many understand about this sport, because the guys that catch them day in and day out are highlighted so hard in this sport. It looks very dreamy, and it looks great. And that's what I saw too. And I didn't realize on the backside of that is a lot of guys that are fighting mentally through so many battles, just trying to survive. And I know a lot of them think it's only happening to them and why it's only happening to them. And I sort of want them to know, and I want every, in any aspect of life, a lot of the messages I got were people from not fishing, just in life in general, were like, it's happening to everyone, no matter what you're going to do. This is sort of a part of life. It's just amplified when you get to that top level. Everything is amplified tenfold because you're now versing savages that are the best in the world. So it's not going to come easy. It's going to be hardest thing you've ever done. But it's the reason why the wins are so incredible. Like when you catch them, there's nothing that even comes close. And it's because it's so difficult to do. On the other side is the super, super lows. And I've felt both ends now over 10, 12 years being here now. I feel like the highest of highs of 10 killer, of saving my career and changing mine and Kayla's life in one day. Our entire life changed. We had nothing. We had nowhere to go. I don't know where I'd be if Zaldane just happened to pit me in that one. I don't know where I'd be. I don't have a clue. We were still living out of that truck. Just crazy. And that win changed our entire life. And then on the flip side of that, I was in Australia in 2017, and Kayla and I were having our first day off, and I was seeing my family, and I got a to whom it may concern kind of email saying I was no longer in the Elite Series anymore. And I looked, and my sponsors were all messaging me with question marks saying, "Hey, I thought you were in the Elites," because we'd had signed contracts. And then I was like, "I think I am." And then I clicked on like Elite field set for 2017, and my name wasn't in it. So I had to deal with that. And that's where you have to make the decision on how bad you want it and whether you want to come back. But I think what I want most people to know is that none of that was bad. It all worked out good. It was really, really terrible at the time. But if you choose to keep going, I think those moments are the moments that are going to define all of those things in the future. And one thing that Gene Eisman, Gene, he helped me so much. I'll tell you a little story. But one of the things he said to me one time, he said, "Tell me the worst thing that's ever happened to you in your whole life that's still bad right now." And so I was like, well, I got all of this stuff. And so I'm like thinking of this worst thing that happened to me. And I'm like, oh no, that actually worked out pretty good. And then I'm like, I thought about, this thing, really bad thing that happened. And then I thought about, oh man, that worked out pretty good. And it all ended up working out. Like the worst stuff that ever happened to me put me to right where I'm sitting right here today. And so it's those little things that you need to think about when it seems like the world's sort of crashing around you.
And not only is it crashing, but the evil thing is you're competing in a very public sport, and podcasts, chat boards, social media in general like to talk about all of that. You know what I mean? Like like they talk about the anglers that won't requalify this year. You know what I mean? Like it's not a real thing. I mean, one of the things that drives me crazy is, and the best fans in the world are Bassmaster fans. It amazes me that they come to watch you guys idle away from a dock. It's just nuts, like how much support this sport in general gets. But then you hear you screwed up my fantasy fishing team. And when you have real life consequences, like what you've dealt with, and to be totally honest, anglers deal with every single week. Like, I mean, I guess what stood out to me in that post when you described the angler and the look in the angler's face, like I feel like I see that every week. I feel like Saturday night I'm going out to dinner and I run into a group of anglers. There's one that's just quiet, and that one is not, you know what I mean? Because it's not a team sport. It's just, I mean, you really do take the weight of the world on your shoulders, and people compare it to golf and all that. It's nothing like that. In golf, you have a
No.
caddy, you have coaches, you have, I mean, you
Yeah.
got you
Yeah.
and Kayla really at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I think when you fail, it's all on your shoulders. There's no one like to put it on. There's no one to question. And honestly, the biggest thing is like no one understands except for another Elite Series angler, but everyone thinks they can fish. So what not thinks they can fish, everyone can fish. So like everyone can smallmouth fish. And there was a bunch of people that were fishing in Sinclair and they caught 20 something pounds while we were there. And so they are judging you off of that too, because they can catch smallmouth and they can do all of these things. But it's a different story when you're going to your account and you're pulling $4,500 out and putting it on the line against a bunch of absolute savages. And then you don't know whether you're going to, that 10 grand payment's due on Monday and you don't know if you're going to have it. And then when you fish like that, I just see it too often. It's so mental because once you're in that, it's over. Like you just know your mind cannot be thinking about that when there's a big group of anglers that aren't thinking about the money, that aren't thinking about requalifying. They're just thinking about how they can get a next bite on a bass. Those guys are nearly impossible to beat. And so like one of my things is like, I knew I have to get to a stage where I'm not thinking about those things when I'm making a cast for a bass. And that's one of the biggest things that the rookies and, guys that are just talented fishing and don't have big money support behind them, that's where they're going to find the biggest struggle. But fish will just they'll make you feel like a hero and they'll make you feel like the biggest loser you've ever seen and don't know what you're doing. They'll make you look like you have not a clue what you're doing. And I've been fishing Sinclair since 2011. I've had some really good events there, big opens, FLW tour. I had some really good shots to win in an open. And then, it's all, everything that you ever knew is different. And you're out there casting at those fish and then you're watching other anglers just absolutely annihilate them. That's where the crazy part comes too, is now you're watching the next day, you were throwing that same bait, you were in that same area. Like, why didn't they bite my bait, And a lot of people get jealous of the guys that are super successful and seem to catch them week in and week out. But my mindset, and to someone that gets that jealous feeling, is fine to feel that jealousy a little bit because it means you want it. It means you want something. That's good. Like, I don't mind having a little bit of that as long as it doesn't go too far. But I'm so thankful for the guys that are absolute hammers and doing it the correct way with like integrity and all of those things that I try and speak about, that catch them because they're showing me that it can be done. If everyone's journey was all up and down and all over the place and it was constantly fighting, I'm like, man, where is my end goal here to be better if everyone is all over the place? I want to see someone consistent all the time. So I know, like, I want Brandon and G-Man and Cagney and like Christy to show that greatness of just like domination, doing it the correct way. So I'm like, that can be done. So I got to get better. Like, it's very easy to feel like you're unlucky in fishing because there's this hint of luck in it.
Yeah.
I hate ever saying it, but there's just enough of a hint of luck in fishing that you're like, why is this happening to me and not them? But there's so much skill involved that when you don't catch them, it is your fault. You are doing something wrong. Like, it took a little adjustment. It took something away from it that you can do better. When things settle down, I can look at Sinclair and be like, I should have moved more. I should have stayed on my trolling motor more. I shouldn't have listened to this. I should have done that. And those are the things you got to look at, not like, I'm just unlucky. Like, that's the worst thing you can do. And a lot of us do it. you get very jealous of guys that are just, because sometimes they make a cast and it's just terrible and they hook a 7-pounder and land it and you're like, what? But it happens to everyone. Look what happened to Christy and Brandon and all of that at Lay Lake for all of those things to line up. They got it could have went any way, and sort of they got unlucky towards the end. But and then Christy, he could have learned, I'm not going to boat flip. If he didn't boat flip that fish, he wins. If Brandon doesn't make that run or checks the fish and it doesn't die, he wins. There's a lot in it, but yeah, a lot of it is put on our own backs. But I think that one of the biggest things in fishing is if you don't have early success, it's a tough old grind
really
up.
hard. Yeah, go ahead.
You're going to be in for one of the toughest things you've ever done. But it gets said all the time, I think it just has to be that thing that you can't live without. You've also got to be, smart about it. And it's definitely different when you have a baby and you have Riv and you have a home and, you build those things up. You got something to lose. I feel like I didn't have as much to lose when it was just me and Kayla and we're in the truck and it's like, well, we're winging it. We have nothing, but it was still I wanted that. My dream was my dream of being a Bassmaster and winning an elite or best being there. That was my thing that I had. That was my house and home and all of the things. That was a hunt. So when it came to me getting kicked out or constantly having bad finishes, I mean, it was a terrible feeling of sitting in the camper by yourself for days. I remember when after the Mississippi River in 2016, I never come out of the camper for 2-3 days. And
wow.
I see people doing that and I'm just sick. I'm I don't want that for anyone. I don't, because I know if I had the right person to come and see me and say, hey, it's going to be all right, I probably would have been all right, but I didn't really have that then. And it just to me, it looked like everyone was catching them and everyone was doing all of this. And all I could do was come 90th and it's not a fun feeling, but that feeling is, it's either, to be harsh, that's either going to stop you and it's going to turn you around and it's not for you. It's too hard. It's not for you. And that's fine. Go and do that. But if it's for you, you're going to have to dig down and go back to the opens and do it all again. Let's see what you got. How bad do you want it? There's that feeling too. I have the sickening, that shouldn't happen to anyone. And then it's also, I see the guys fishing opens right now and Ben and YouTube guys and coming in and having early success. I love that. At the same time, I want to see what you got. How bad do you want it? What if you miss the cut? What if you miss the elites by one? You're going to come back and do all 9 opens again? Because that's what a lot of the guys do. That's what I did. I missed 2011, 12, 13, 14, just back, missed, just looking like nothing. It's never, ever going to happen. Not even getting close. And then making it and then just getting absolutely annihilated and going away and coming back and doing it again. That's what it takes. That's what it's going to take. If you are one of those people that just have to work harder than the average bear, that's what you're going to have to do to make it. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. Paul Nick says it all the time. And I've used this example and it's really true. It's a dream's not enough. People that I dream of doing that, dreams, not, it literally has to be a nightmare that this is something I have to. And when you were explaining the whole nobody talking to you type thing, when it gets dark, it gets real dark. When you really I see it every year and I try to make a difference in it. You know what I mean? Just by being there or whatever, but there's a weird period which will be in these next few events where there's some people that
they're going to hurt,
aren't going to requalify. And you'll notice all of a sudden, a lot of anglers don't stop talking. They don't turn their back on them, but it's kind of, you know what I mean? Everybody, all of a sudden there's just nobody around and it's just you. And again, and I can't stress this enough throughout this entire conversation, and we talked about it before we started recording. You love your life. You love your dream. You know what I mean? Like, you fish for a living. So if you're a dude working at wherever and you're not happy and you're like, well, it must be nice you fish for a living. Sure. The fishing isn't the problem. It's everything else, the weight of the world that comes with it. How close were you when you lost, what was 17 when you got cut, when you got that letter?
Yeah.
How close were you to just saying, I'm done, I gave it a shot?
Yeah. I got goosebumps just saying that, because it's pretty wild. Like, I was super beat down, and I wasn't sure if I was going to get kicked out, because there was a lot up in the air, how it always is, whether it's going to come back, all of this stuff. And I actually did a charity fight that year, and that was at the end of it, I trained like a psycho. I did like I trained for like 15 weeks like a professional boxer in a downtown Dallas gym. I was sparring people. I was getting black eyes. It was wild. And my cousin Chris, who was a pro boxer at the time, he was having a Australian title fight the same night, and I fought a professional football player, and just we were raising money for Mikey, a young kid that had cancer, and I raised money for the neurologist in our town that they needed. And I sold my jersey. I did all these things, but I've never told this story. Like I raised like $10,000 or something for my fight, and they gave me the money and they put it in my account, and the credit card company, because I had so much racked up, they took the money, and then I had to try and find the money to pay for the donations to those two things. And so life was rough, and but I was like loving it. When I'd recover and go through all that, I would just get back to where I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Everything's good. But anyway, Kayla and we had our first day off after that fight. It had been pretty hectic. And I wake up the first morning that we were going to have a day together, and I've got like 10 messages, 10 missed call from sponsors and question marks. Hey, I thought you were in the Elite Series. And I said, I think I am. And then, went on to bassmaster.com and went through, and my name wasn't on the list. And then, sorry, mate.
You're good.
The reason I got a bit emotional there is because I was done, like it's 100% done. And I said to Kayla, like, I'm in Australia, and I'm like, far out, like this is it. And Gene Eisman, who's just been a big supporter, he sends me this message, and it's a photo of like me, and then it's like a big long message, and he's like, post this on social media. I just spoke to Bill at FLW. They want you there. You're going to come back, fish the FLW tour, fish the opens in between. And then here's Bill's number, here's the email. And like, it was this perfectly articulated message that I just literally copied and pasted, and I posted it to say, I'm not giving up. I'm coming back. And like, without that, I don't know where I'd be. So he, that was pretty cool. So then I was just back in it. I rang up Bill, and he was like, yep, we'd love to have you on FLW tour. And so then I was able to keep my sponsors and say, hey, I'm still fishing a professional level. And then rang Chris Bose. He got me into all the opens that were in between, and started back on track again. But that was crazy. Yeah.
I guess I'm a little shocked, and hopefully our system has changed. Like, I guess I'm a little shocked that nobody called you in advance. And that you literally, that's a painful thought of going to bassmaster.com to find out. So
Yeah,
If it
I got
hasn't
it.
changed by now, I hope
No,
it has.
it has, and a really cool part about it all is when I got to come back and when I made it back in 2019. Like I got to say to him, like, do you know what like happened to me? And like Trip and everyone was kind of like, what, you know? And I was like, and I got to like open up and say, like, because of all the split and everything that happened, I was they had it where like you didn't want to voice your opinion hugely back then, you know, like, and I was just a kid or whatever fishing the elites. I didn't want to say, hey, I don't think this is wrong or whatever. It's my second year. But after going through all of that in 19, I actually qualified back. I didn't get an invite. Like I fished the opens, I made the championship, come fifth or whatever in the championship. And then they were like, hey, this has all happened. And then I actually got to say, hey, do you know like what's actually happening when you kick someone out? And like they sort of didn't really realize it. And then I got to sit down and say, like, this is what happened to me. And they were sort of like, holy cow, like we didn't mean for that to happen at all. And I'm like, and then a lot better things changed. Like, because what actually did happen is I rang Chris and all the opens were full. And so when I got kicked out, I rang and they were like, the opens are 220 maxed out. I'm like, I was just in the elites. Now I can't get in the opens. And so one of those rule changes are when you get kicked out of the elites, you get automatic entry into the opens. I got to help with a few of those things, which is super cool. And it's why I'm thankful for some of the some of those things that I got to go through, because I feel like I can help people because I know like what they're feeling right now. And you know what most guys do, which you probably don't know this. And I actually talked to Hunter Shorrock about it a few years ago. When you're out there fishing, guys towards the end of the session are thinking about what they're going to say to you or why they didn't catch them. And they haven't, it's not over. There's 2 hours to go. Yeah. I know they do it because I do it. And I stop myself now when my brain goes there. You're already thinking about what you're losing speech, like what you're going to say because you didn't catch them. It's super sad because that's what fishing and sports and high profile things will do to you. But I had a mentor as a kid, John Schofield, who taught me a lot about the mental side of things. And he taught me to like watch my thoughts. So I'm always conscious of like, I'm thinking stupid negative right now. And if someone did that around me and told me, I would cut them off and say, what are you talking about? You've got 2 hours left in the tournament. Why are you thinking like that? It can take one cast. And at Sinclair, this time around, I was running back to 9 minutes to go and I pulled up 300 yards out from the takeoff. And my marshal was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, still casting. He's like, you need to get back. And I'm like, no, this time to cast. And I caught a 4.5 pounder and hooked another one just as big, landed. I was like, that's why you keep casting. I come in and I got a last $2.5 check, but that fish jumped me up all of those points. It was a small win for me. But so many people are just thinking negative, like when it's not even over yet.
Yeah. It's like driving a car. I mean, you go where you look. Like, I mean, that's what they always say. If you're spinning out or whatever, you look where you want to go, and that's where you end up going. And it's the same thing. But the weirdest thing, and you tell me this, you have experienced that in your own life. And that's at St. Clair when you said, get that thought out of my head. I'm still casting. If I have a minute, I have time, and if you have 2 hours left, literally you're still in contention to win the tournament. I mean, probably not on day 3 or day 2, you know what I mean? But if you, day 1, you can still literally, I mean, it takes 20 seconds to catch a bass. So as long as you have 520s, you're still in the tournament. Because I mean, your win was a prime example of like fireworks can go off, craziness can happen. But if somebody tells you that, it seems like it's really hard to, I mean, you all hear that, but until you've lived that, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to do that, It's
you see the momentum in fishing of how big that mental side of it is, because when you're catching them, it's just like, oh, it's like I can't be stopped. Like everywhere I cast, a fish eats it, and it's the positivity. It's even how you're standing. It's how you're casting. It's all of these things of being, having a positive thing. And then as like shoulders slumped, making casts, they're not going to bite, and that's all going to relate to how you're going to finish. And as you keep getting beat down and beat down and beat down, it only works out to another beat down. But I have been good at like getting beat down and then just like top 10 and like change the trajectory of everything. And okay, now we're back onto it. So you never know with me, which is what I've worked hard on, because it looks like 3 cuts in a row now of going, on a downward, but like I could easily win the next one, top 10 it, and we're like back going again. So you've got to try and fight through those lulls, because, Zona said to me, I'm like, man, what am I doing? He said, keep casting. That was the best tip. He said, keep casting. And that's all that's literally what it comes down to. It's like, I feel like this game is fishing is like who can stay in the game the longest. That's like, it's not totally that, but like if you can hang in there, your time will come. It'll happen. You've got to keep trying to get better. You got to stay on top of the game. You got to just treat it like any athletic sport. You can't just have it anymore where like, I know how to do that, and if I can't catch them like that, that's it. You have to be working on your electronics, your game, all of those things, staying ahead of it a lot more than you used to. And then you got to wait your time out.
Do you have like a mental checklist? Because dude, whether you felt that at the moment or it's just what you exude on the outside, I've always said you're one of the most motivating and positive people I know. You know what I mean? Like you find a silver lining in the stormiest of storms. So how do you, and I definitely feel like I feel like I've seen a few Carls. I mean, I've been a fan of yours since you were in Australia, and I love the passion and excitement you bring in sport, but I also, and it's not, I've seen people when they're on that, when the snowball starts burying them, when they get in that bad roll, but you seem to have figured out how to overcome it. How have you, like, do you have a checklist? Like when you start feeling it coming, when you're saying your shoulders slumped and everything, when you start feeling that, do you have like a mental checklist where you're like, stand up, focus?
Yeah, a little bit, not a checklist, but that watching your thoughts and watching your actions is big from the outside. Like looking at someone, if someone tends to ask me something I about that I know, I can answer it to them. Like I can articulate it and be like, this is what you need to do. This is why, but then I won't do it myself. And that's what can happen a lot. Like you can say it, but like whether you're doing that or not is a big thing. But it's exactly what I spoke about on that video. Is I could have sat on that couch and not talked and Kayla's upset because I'm upset, and Riv's up, she's one, all of these things. And then Swindle could have come over and I could have said like, oh yeah, it's nice. You're getting in, you caught him. And like now I'm almost out of classic contention. Everything's bad. Like you're that close off just doing that. And I could have easily done that and just been mad. Everyone in the campground seemed to catch him. Hunter, Brandon, Swindle, everyone, Lowen, Matt, everyone around me smashed him. We're just in the middle. And I'm like, I'm 72nd. And like, and then I was like, I can't sit here right now. And like, the last thing I wanted to do in my whole life is get up and go for a run. My body was absolutely destroyed. I'm half burnt, dehydrated. And I'm like, I can't sit here in this though. This is not good. This is not healthy. And I ran, and that just gets things back going in a positive direction. I listened to some motivational music. You got to change that basically the direction that's going. and I got back, and the ice bath thing has been a lifesaver for me. It's a life hack like I've never seen. Like, it's unbelievable. But all of those things are hard. That's why I do them. Like, I don't want to do anything that's easy. And so running is really hard, no matter who you are. If you're the best athlete in the world, you start running, it just sucks. It's like really hard. And then getting in the cold plunge, it sucks. No matter how many times you do it, it sucks. But when you get out, it's unbelievable. And that's how most things are. So I think just catching yourself, being in that, and then finding your like anchor, that what's gonna turn this around, what's gonna pick it up. And then the other thing I spoke about, which I need to do more of, is having some wins in your life somewhere else. Because like I said, it's the most losingest sport ever. I've won one time. Like, I've had many wins by making the elites and making it back, or making a top 10. And a win for me is getting a check. Like, when I'm inside 50 cut and I get 10 grand, I'm like, I worked my butt off. I studied for this. I fished for this. I trained. I did all of this stuff. And now I got paid. Everyone's happy. Sponsors are happy. Life's good. When you're outside of that, it's like the very opposite end. Whether you miss by an ounce or whatever, you're like, it's such a complete 360 from just missing it to being inside that cut. But I've only won one time since 2011, but it's so hard to do that. That one win like made my entire career. It changed our lives. It did all these things. But in between that, if you just go off how many elite series tournaments or fishing tournaments you win, and that's the deciding factor of whether you're a success or not, you're going to walk around thinking, you're just going to walk around beat down constantly. I just talked to Swindle about it. He hasn't won an elite event, but he's won so much. But that still hangs on his head. Like, he's like, why isn't it happening to me? Like, Joey's a rookie and just bang, win 2 straight in the first year. And then when you Swindle, you got to be like, far out. Like, what have I got to do? But that's why you don't want to hang too much on that, because you'll dwell on something that isn't going to define you in all of those other things of life. And I think becoming a dad and having Riv really switched. Kayla has helped me a lot of like not being so selfish. Like, this is my dream and I've got to make it and I have to get this. It's all of the things in life that really, if you win everything and you have it all and you got this big pile of money and you're the one sitting on it and no one else has any of it and you're just the king of the castle, like, yeah, you might think that's good for a second, but I don't see any success in that at all. And, you know, I want to see, you know, we need to highlight, I think, like Swindle said, like, highlight more of like the other things, not just the person that wins or whatever. Highlight some of the other things, like people in UFC, they get trophies now for passing 50 USADA tests or whatever, you know, like it's like a thing. Like, that guy's been clean for 5 years straight and he's fought 3 times a year, you know, and there should be almost that, like, in everything. It gets spoken about a lot now, but like the integrity of the sport, integrity is, I think, is going to become a sought after commodity in people finally, because it's not looked at. It hasn't been. It's just you win, and then, like, doesn't matter how you did it, you're a hero and everyone loves you. And I'm like, but that guy does all of this stuff, but no, he's successful and winning and doing all this stuff. And then you're like, and then the guys that are doing it for real and getting beat down aren't getting anything from that. And I think all of this getting highlighted through tournament fishing, I think integrity is finally going to make a comeback.
Sad that it has to make a comeback, but to play devil's advocate, how do you avoid some of those pitfalls when the stakes are so high? You know, for Gerald Swindle, which proves that it never ends, because the financial end of things isn't a problem for G. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's worried about not requalifying and stuff. but it doesn't matter. That pressure is no less. That when
Yeah.
some
Yeah, it's
jackass
true.
makes a comment on social media and says, when are you going to win one? That doesn't
Yeah.
burn any less,
Yeah.
you know, which is,
Yeah. That's the
but
competitiveness.
how do you avoid that? Like, where does that come from? Your upbringing, like as a kid, like how do you make sure that you're headed in the right direction? I mean, clearly you are, but because you're thinking of integrity, but you know what I mean? Like, how do you avoid the easy road?
I know it's like a dangling carrot in front of you, and it's going to always be there. But I can't see how it's possible that you can be successful and win and get all of this stuff off not doing the correct thing, and you keep it and that's it. That's bottom line. He was the champ. He won it all. Like, that was it. It's like, I feel like life has its time and turn, and it's something has to give, and it does. We've seen it, and we give a lot of crap to social media and the internet and stuff, but I'm like, thank God for that. Thank God, like, that the internet's finally catching some things out, and guys are getting caught. Without that, it would have kept going, and you would have never known it was there. I don't think that social media is doing that. It's always been there. Guys have been doing it from the start, and it's not terrible. It just hasn't been highlighted, hasn't been shown. You haven't been able to see it. And so live and all of cameras and all the things, that's what's going to keep the sport honest. And that's what we need more of. But I think the kids coming up right now need to know that I wish like you could see me in 2015, 14, not really knowing anyone, no one hardly knowing who I was. And then having Gerald Swindle, one of my best mates, Rick Clun, putting a Fear My Heart hat on and saying what that means to him. Brandon Polinick just having my back and helping me through anything. Winning 10 Keller and looking up, and half the field was standing over there of guys, and they're all clapping for me, getting all of the messages from all of my competitors. Having the respect on the water when I drive up to someone knowing I'm not there. Like, there's all of these things that I get that are incredible because of that. And most people don't get to see that from my eyes. They just see the wins of certain people or just winning and all of that things, but they don't see the on water that comes with that other stuff, where no one respects you. You haven't got the respect of your peers and your competitors, and and then I call them, you don't want to be a but person. Like, one, you don't want to be the person that says that, where the person wins and you're a person that's, but he did this. But you don't want to be the person saying that. And also, I never want to be the person they're saying that about too, which is can go both ways. So, like, a lot of the times when someone wins, but he gets this and that. And so it's sort of half true. There's a lot of jealousy, and some people say stuff and it's probably not, but like, you don't hear anything about Brandon. You don't hear anything about, you don't hear anything about these guys that are just doing it the right way with morals and integrity. And I don't think it gets shown of how cool it is when you go down that route. It's like I said, it's going to be harder. It's going to take longer. It's going to suck. But the benefits that come from doing that, you're building your house, you're building your career with concrete blocks. And
solid foundation.
You're building it on foundations for last a lifetime. And even it helps you on the water, because there's guys that are real hard asses on the water. Like, you drive up to them, they're like, you don't want to go near them. They're not going to let you in. Like, but then every single time someone does that to me or anyone, it's like a little brain check. It's like, all right, you ain't coming near me, like, ever. Don't even think to come near like my spot. If I've got an area. And then for me, I've let so many people in, it has cost me and it's hurt me. And you have to make sure you're not too I was definitely too naive, like where, you know, like the stuff that had happened to me, I'm like, you idiot. Like I would never do that now. But at Oahe last year, I'm like running up. I've only got one spot and it's Seth sitting right on it and it's little. And I'm like, dude, this is the only spot I've got. And he's like, get in here. Let's both whack him. And he's like, you'd do it for me. And I'm like, man, if I was that hard ass, I wouldn't have been able to do that. I would have just had to see Seth and been like, damn, he beat me there.
Yeah.
So there's advantages, but I think I have been at fault of being a little bit too, I don't know what you'd call it, but just too
Soft.
nice. Yeah,
Soft,
just too
kind.
soft.
I mean, kindness can sometimes be a weakness, and especially
in sports,
in
they're
a
trying to beat you.
competition.
Like, when you're in competition, you got to have that like bit of blood. You got to have that, and I've got that fight in me. And America and this sport has given me that, and I like that. I've got that, but I've got this side of me which I like. I like that this side of me, but then I can also fight. So I can switch gears, and that's sort of, I think you just don't want to always be like either super hot-headed or super way too, nice, because that cost me a lot. In that 15 and 16, dude, I found winning areas and I ran up and I left them, and it was like so big. Like I could have went in there and I'm like, oh, I don't want him to think I'm, I don't want him to think I'm poaching or whatever. And I left, and I'm like, why did I do that? But
it's part of the growth, though, I think, as a competitor. And dude, I think it's real easy to underestimate what you took on. Like, you know what I mean? Like when I talk to people about you, I'm like, you got to understand, he didn't throw jigs. I remember I interviewed you at that Gunnersville tournament, and I'm trying to, it's before we are live or anything, and I'm trying to get some info from you. And I said, well, where did you grow up throwing jigs or whatever? He's like, I never threw jigs. And I'm like, because I expected you to say, oh, I Lake Towamba, we throw jigs all the time. And I give this like nice little stat. And I'm like, well, how is that even possible that you've overcome so much to be here? And dude, you have done it right. And I think that shows. Like, who does Rick Clun write posts about?
It's
not very many people. I mean, that to me, I texted you right away and I'm like, did you see Clun's post? Because to me, it was just like, but it's truthful. But one of the things you touched on is people not doing it the right way. And I don't need to talk about specific things. There've been enough things over the last 12 months that have been clearly proven. When you see, when everything that you've faced and everything that you've overcome to be where you are today, what emotion, when you see somebody not doing it right, what emotion does that evoke in you? Yeah,
it has been one of the toughest things for me to get around and get over, like mentally, because it's cost me and a lot of people a lot of money, like a lot of different things, like anything. And I don't like the excuse of any tournament organization saying, well, we don't want to hurt a career. It's like, but what about mine? I could have won. I almost made it into the top 10. Instead, I got pipped out by that guy that did this. I didn't do that. I did it this way, but now he's in front of me. So you're actually hurting the guys that are doing it for real. And it definitely, I hate it's just the black eye of tournaments. And I just think that I 100% believe that the organizations just have to get super tough. And like we've spoke about, UFC was just not legitimate until they cracked down on that stuff. And when it did, I just want a fair go. I want to fish against everyone and we're all on the same playing field. When you're not, there's just so many different advantages and it's frustrating. Like, okay, I went down this path, but this guy wasn't even fishing on our level and he beat me, and then nothing happened. He's a hero. He's doing all of this stuff. And you're like, oh. So it's been, but it's starting to come around. I feel like you get enough guys and you get it seen, and I think the tournament organizations will crack down, but I see the predicament they're in. It's tough because it's a finicky sport and sponsors are teetering right on there and they don't want to see that. Like sponsors are behind anglers, and I see where they're in a little bit of a trap, but I just feel like you have to take that road of like, we don't take any crap. You mess around here and you'll be out. And it's frustrating to see some guys just back fishing now after getting caught and after blatantly doing that. And it's just like life continues. And I'm like, if that happened to me, I'd just never be able to fish again. Like I'm almost like jealous of it. How, if I was known as a cheater and people thought that I'd never be able to catch a bass again, like I wouldn't be able to compete. It would be over. And they are somehow able to go out and just continue to catch bass is mind blowing to me. It's a different thing.
I agree.
It's a different mentality than what I can ever imagine. Cause I'm like, I would just rather die than do something to swindle, but swindle, not tell him something or do something behind his back. I'm like, no, I would never do that. I would rather not catch a bass ever again to do that, or break the rules I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to be able to fish ever again the same. I have to have a clear conscience to be able to fish. But some people just aren't built that way, but that's what makes everyone different. That's what makes good and bad.
Yeah, that's the truth. And it's amazing how some dudes can just stand side by side. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna stand in the troughs. I mean, there's people that it's crazy. It's crazy.
I think we can figure it out. I wish we would have more meetings, but I know like every bass fisherman's like got a different opinion, a different story, but like just right now, people are able to see some people like half know the schedule. And like a month ago, there's guys ringing people from lakes trying to get waypoints. And I'm like, oh my God, like now they're not breaking the rules, but like
They're not keeping them.
Yeah. It's like, you can do that, but like you shouldn't know. So like Bass needs to get on top of that and make sure like, hey, if you even think that the schedule's out, then it's a no-go, like something like that. Like, I want Bassmaster and all of the tournaments, they have to be the casino. They have to be the casino overlooking everyone with a camera and making sure that everyone's playing on the same field and there's no cheaters. And when the cheaters are in there, they're out, they're gone. That's the only way I see it, changing. But it's so good on our side. I really enjoy it. It's just a few people that run the gray line and a few things that happen, but the majority of people, like, it gets put out there a lot, but really the majority of guys are amazing.
Are you comfortable with telling me what things you think do happen at Bass? I mean, you don't have to give me anglers, but where do you think the gray area resides?
It's like there's full blatant cheating, and that usually gets knocked on the head, which is fine. But for me, it's a constant gray line running to where I wouldn't do that, but they would. So I'm like, I wouldn't do that. And so, years ago at Sinclair, when we had to catch them, they had to be hooked inside the mouth. Remember that? Like, even if you weren't looking at them. Do you remember that year? It was like 16. And I remember coming in, we're in line, and me and Christy were there, and Christy's he's mad as hell. And I'm mad. I got like 16 pounds. And I was catching him on a crankbait too. And he was, and Christy's like, man, I literally let go like 22 pounds. They had the crankbait mouth over the crankbait, and the hooks would be either side of the mouth. Well, another angler, high profile angler's there, and he's like, man, I could just see that the hooks were inside their mouth. And I'd say to my marshal, like, can you see it's inside the mouth? And then he would agree. Then he would boat flip the fish and the hooks would get caught in the carpet. And then me and Christy are just like, the blood was just running out of me. I'm just like, oh no, like that. And then, I came 90th, and I'm like letting 4.5 pounders go. And I'm like, it's just... And then, at Champlain a couple of years ago, I came in and there was big perch sitting in my live well, giant ones. And I'm like, oh my God. And they're just like, there's 4 of them and they're just this long. And then I come in and then someone sends me videos of guys putting the bait fish back down the fish's throat. And I'm like, I imagine if I did that, like, and then I came 11th, I missed the 10 cut. And I'm like, but I wouldn't have done that. And then that nothing happens. It's just a rule change later on. I'm like, this is just the little things that just need to be shut off immediately when you just do so. There's blatant stuff that was just a stupid thing to do. And then there's like stuff that's accidental through no wakes and all of that. But you just got to get that level playing field somehow. I don't know how you do it, but
I think you're right, though. I mean, I think it's loud and clear. I mean, they need to, when anything happens, I've said for a long time, it needs to be made public. And this isn't Bass. This is every organization. It needs to be made public, and it needs to be properly punished. You know, like there's way too many. I mean, the fact that, because I feel the exact same way about what you said earlier. You know, all of your negatives have built you into a strong foundation. Well, it's the same thing with Bass, with MLF, with every organization that's out there. If you got a weak foundation, and that's what you have when you have some guys pushing the rules, it's going to be pretty tough to build, on top of that, because it's only going to get worse because recently sorry, go ahead.
I was about to, like, what I was going to say is like this, it should be a warning to Bass of what happened over there is if you don't crack down it now, it's going to get worse. It's not going to go away. And that's what happened. They got so lenient for so long. And what you're finding now is you're seeing anglers speak out. You're seeing Swindle post a video, anglers posting a video because no one else is fighting for it. So, okay, so the angler has to get on and call it out and say it. And someone through social media has to. So it's making us have to fight for our own thing. And that shouldn't happen. It should be the leader and the organization to say like, yeah, we've got this, we've got you covered, we're on it. And even if they're not, put something out there to let us know, hey, we have seen this and we're addressing it, just something so that we know that at least they're working on it or they've seen it, and why that decision was made or whatever, even if it is amongst us. But it just seems like cheating in fishing is really detrimental to your career. So like, so you got to be careful. It has to be like a matter of fact, not like something happened and this guy said this, and it has to be like what happened over there. Like
it was on video.
Yeah, it's on video. You're caught. That's it. And then that they should be able to do something. But yeah, I just feel like it's gonna snowball if something's not done soon, because you're gonna have a bunch of angry anglers that are just wanting to take it into their own hands.
Yeah, well, and then if that's what's bringing success, I mean, like the recatching fish thing was not new. That's been happening for a while. It's just never been to that level of people, like that many people in one event that ever did it, and it seemed to stand out. But I mean, because we both, are with Bass, I always hate even talking about a lot of that stuff because I think everybody right away says, "Oh, well, that's why." But I mean, it makes me angry. Like, and I think that the world searches for violations now, like sometimes to a fault, you know what I mean? Where like, oh, they did this. And it's, I mean, but you can't let anyone get away with it.
No,
it's
why I try and,
sorry, go ahead.
It's why I try and talk like positive about it, because like a positive about everything, because there's just so much negativity on so many different things. Like no matter what, the guy wins or this happens, it's always something. So it's like, I would rather not have to talk about anything like that and talk about all of the cool things about this sport. There's so many cool things happening and good things, but it's pushed me and other people to talk about it because there's nothing getting done. And it's scary that we're showing the example to high school and college kids this is how you act as a professional. It's not good, but we don't need to hide it because it is happening in every single other sport. It happens everywhere. It happens every week in most other sports. Something's going on. So it's not just a one-off thing. Like, it's only happening here.
And there's a percentage of population, and we'll hear it in some comments, I'm sure, with this show. There's a percentage of population that feels like if you're not in the gray, you're not trying hard enough, which to me is, that's insane. Like, I mean,
I don't like that. Yeah.
It's never like, I mean, my kid plays competitive soccer and I go to his games, but I can tell you when his team's wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but there's so many people that are, that's my, if that's who I'm cheering for, they can't do it. No, I mean, it's the same rules for everybody. And I don't know.
Right's right and wrong's wrong. I feel like most people, when you look at each position, you're just like, I wouldn't do that. And then that person did it. Most people know what that rule's meant for. And then the fact that that those rules, they can look at it and be like, oh, I can get around that somehow. Like, why is your mind even going there? Like, that's where it gets tough to beat a lot of these guys, because that's where their mind's going instantly. I don't even think like that. So when you haven't got a solid foundation of rules that's stuck by, the guys that are living well inside the rules get hurt the most, because you're living way too far in, and then they're living way too far on the edge, and that's a big advantage when you live like that.
Yeah, I think it'll get a lot better. I think just even the simple fact that people are talking about it as much as they are, I mean, it's got to get better. And that's the goal with every sport, should be to make it better. But dude, the one thing that really stands out to me that I think is kind of the moral of your story, and it's everybody's story. My wife always says, everybody has a battle, even if you don't know it. And how you fix that battle and how you get over things is put you back in that camper when you wanted to stay in there, and you stayed there for 3 days. Nothing good happens when you stay in the dark. When you get up, get out, and get moving, because you know what I mean? Like, you look at any problem, and there's so many people facing so many worse problems on earth that
worse
makes,
it's almost embarrassing to talk about.
Exactly.
It's like, like that the best saying is like, when I forget, one guy is like, when you're like that, I'll take you into a hospital and you tell your problems to a cancer patient, and if you can make them feel sorry for you, like, then we'll talk. Then we'll talk. But until you can do that, like, it's up to you to get up and get going and fix yourself. Like, like you said, everyone's battling a different demon, and so just be nice to everyone, because you just don't know what everyone's going through day in, day out. That's the thing. And it's not just the fishing side of things. When the worst stuff happens, it amplifies all that other bad stuff that's potentially happening in your life. But yeah, we're still extremely lucky to be, that's all I think about all the time, is like, I can't believe how lucky we are. But you went through hell and back to get here, but we are doing something that's unbelievable, and it's the best thing in the world. But it's a mission to get there and stay there at the same time.
Yeah, you're going to fight your whole life, but I mean, as long as you're fighting, you're
alive.
That's what, honestly, like, I mean, what did you do today? I mean, I'm a person who's very high, but I mean, I never ever talk about it, but I have lows, and I think most people like me have those. And dude, I ask myself a lot of times, like, if I'm having a dark day, I never talk about this stuff, but I expect you guys to talk about everything, so I better do the same. But like, I do have that, and I'll always ask myself the same question: what'd you do today to make it better? And generally, when it's the darkest, your answer is nothing. I've laid here and just felt sorry for myself, and every dream I ever imagined. You know, my life has worked out way better than my guidance counselor in high school thought it would, way better than I ever thought it would. But you still have dark days. But the key is to get up, get out, and move, whatever it is. I mean, maybe you don't go for the run that you go. Maybe it's just a walk. Maybe maybe it's just out the front door. But nothing gets fixed being by yourself and being in the dark.
And keeping it to yourself. You know, it's one of the biggest things that men do is they just keep it all bottled up and they don't tell anyone. And, you know, Pat Slapper, who I got to talk to after day 2, I could tell he was hurting and I could feel his pain and I was feeling it, but I'd gotten through the other side of it that afternoon by what I'd done. And he said, man, thank you for that conversation because I felt a lot better after it. And he was 20 seconds off standing up off that seat and going into his camper and laying in it and just dealing with it that way. And there's nothing good is going to come from that. It's either speaking to someone, venting, talking about it, getting outside, going for a walk. It's actually super simple when you write it all down. It's like food, hydration, sun, walk, relationships, conversation. It's not that difficult, and it's a lot of stuff that just people don't do. It's something that you've actually got to think about and work towards. Like all of those little things make a big difference. Just sun on your face and in your eyes, getting outside can just change your whole mood. And going for a walk you don't have to run 3-4 miles. You don't have to do that. A half-mile walk back is so good for you and so healthy, and everyone can do it. You have no excuses. And so it's just got to get the right people around you too. That's a big deal.
So
you know,
key.
And in fishing, you get a house full of guys that are on the downward and all doing it. You'll be the next one, but you get around those. You know, that's why I haven't made myself friends with Brandon. I've attracted those kind of guys too around me because they're the only people I let around me for a length of time, and they'll let me around them is because I lift them up and they lift me up. And that's the sort of people you got to have around. So when you're having those down days, they'll get you back up and going. And then if they're having it, you'll do it for them.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you mentioned that about Polnick because I'm certain, dude, he won't hang with you if you're there. You know what I mean? Like, literally, I mean, he'll help anybody through a tough time. Don't get me wrong. But like, if you look at the people that hang with him, it's all very positive people. Like you never have many of those. And I just think that's smart for everybody to surround themselves with positive, but ultimately get out of the dark, get moving. And
BP won't let you get away with like that feeling sorry for yourself type stuff. That's who you need, like that tough, hard love. Like I've said to him before, you know, and I've said to people, like maybe this happened to me. And it's not like, oh, that sucks for you. Like, man, it's like, well, you got to do this, you know, or you should have done that, you know, and then you're like, oh, okay, that was me, you know, that. And then that thing of like, there's a real good saying. It's like, if you run with people that you're faster than, you'll win every time and it'll feel great. But if you run with people that are much faster than you, you might lose way more, but your time will be better. And so that is people don't like to be around Brandon and Swindle because they're savages and they're killers and they catch them and they're killing it at life. And at times it makes you feel like insignificant. You're like, holy shit, how do I keep up with these guys? Like they're just killers. And that's who you want around you, because now you're like, I got to level up. I got to get better. I got to be doing this. And when you start that mindset instead of a jealousy mindset, that's when everything starts to change. The jealousy mindset that's a bad one to get into. And that's where a lot of us sit, because it looks nice from back where you're sitting, but when you get in amongst people's lives, you're like, oh, I see what it takes to actually get there. And I don't know if I want to do that, or if I want to do that, it's going to take a lot.
Yeah. Social media is one of the biggest weapons of that. Like it fills your head full of, it's just, look what so-and-so's got. Look where I think that, I know everybody stops and talks about social media and says, oh, it sells so much stuff. But I've honestly, like over the last number of years, I've been like, it's everything. It's the reason that people pay expensive money for cookies and donuts nowadays so they can post pictures of them. And I feel even if you look at how in our industry, like I remember years ago, people would get a new bass boat and they would get the electronics that came on that bass boat. They might order it specifically, but they probably wouldn't change their electronics until they got another new bass boat, 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 years later.
Yeah.
Now everybody changes their electronics. But if you think about it, dude, it's the ultimate. It's always selling in the way that like you always wanted the latest and greatest. But now you have a little device that you look on and it shows you, well, George has got the latest and greatest, and Harry's got the latest and greatest, and Ted's got, oh my God, even Steve's got the latest and greatest, and he can't even catch them. So you're like, I deserve the latest and greatest.
Yeah. I think people have it tough. Like everyone talks about the old days and it was tougher. It's tougher for kids these days. The mental anguish on kids is, and not kids, in everyone, like, and adults and everything. I can see how they just see it. And it's like, that isn't real. Or if it is, it doesn't just happen. Like it's frustrating because like the real deal ones are looked at, well, they just got it. And then the people that can fake it, it looks so amazing, like it just happened. But at the end of the day, you got to look at that. And that's why you got to win at the things that actually matter in life. Like what I spoke about is family, husband, friends, being a father, being a mum, and doing all of those, having all of those little wins, because they are actually really tough things to do. And they're actually things that not many people do. When you start talking to people, and they're not being the dad they're supposed to be, and they're not doing this, and they're doing these other things. It's like, I see the hard work that I get to put in with Riv is paying me back with what Riv is doing. Like it's incredible. But if I don't do that time, you don't get that payment back. So yeah, social media is it's a devil and it's good, but I choose it to be good. I follow people that are, that's why I like Instagram. I follow all people that just motivate me, and I look at people that have more than me and I'm like, well, what do I got to do? You don't get that thing of like, why has he got that? It's like, well, that's cool that he can do that. Now what do I need to do to get that?
And it's all where you're at. Because at the beginning of this podcast, we started talking about Tommy Wood.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, what would Tommy give today if his problems with Visa could disappear and he had in your shoes right now?
Yeah.
Like
he'd kill for it. And and then, I complain about this or that. And it's like, there's someone else that'd just do anything to get in your shoes.
Yeah. Well, but it all goes back to one thing, dude. Getting out of the trailer, taking the step out of the darkness. And it doesn't matter whether it's a millionaire, a billionaire, a trillionaire.
Everyone's got the
started
same
with the step. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like at one point, every one of them was in a dark trailer, figuratively. May not have been a dark trailer, but they were sitting in there and they didn't want, and they made that step. And and I think, dude, you've made a lot of people make a lot of incredible steps. And I think, I would hope that this podcast today and your honesty will touch a lot of people. Cause I honestly, I know it touched me, and you've made a difference in my life, and keep being
mate.
you.
Thanks, mate. It means a lot. You've been a huge part of like just bringing Fear My Heart to life. And that it has been my goal and is still my goal with everything. And I want to, one day I want to see it. People wear Fear My Heart and they love it, but I want it to not be related to me at all. I want it to be people, I want people to have it on them. They don't know me at all. And they're like, Fear My Heart's me. That's what I'm wearing it for, because it can relate to anyone, and I think it helps a lot of people in that way too. But you have been a huge part of that, and I'm grateful that you've been supportive and been behind me through all those ups and downs. It's been cool.
You're an easy person to back, dude. And I think I've told you this, but like the whole, when you started the Fear My Heart thing, I at the time was just like, Fear My Heart, like I liked calling you the Wallabeast. I mean, to me, it had a whole little character, and I liked it. But you said, hey, Fear My Heart's kind of my thing. And at the time, I'll be honest, I didn't stop to really think about it. I was just like, okay, Fear My Heart. But the more I've watched you and the more I've seen your story unfold, they better freaking fear your heart. Because, dude, you came from a country that didn't have the same species. You came from a country that didn't have the same techniques, and you've overcome, but you've only overcome it with one thing. It's your heart, man. It's your heart to keep pushing. And I think in the history of mankind, hearts are undefeated.
You can beat talent. That's the thing that I like about it, is heart will beat talent every time. If talent doesn't work, like if you haven't got it, you just need a heart, bit of ticker. Let's go. Keep pushing through. I'll tell you a quick story, which is what made me really get behind Fear My Heart, because I didn't know what it was ever going to be, and I still don't. I just want it to be something great, and we're just always working for it to help. We just want to use it to help people for now. But I just wear that one. Remember the original logo? It had like the hat I saw. You could hardly read it. It was a different design. You had to really know what it was. And I was driving down into Texas, and on this back road, country road, this old gas station, and I fuel up and I walk in the servo, and there's just this older lady, behind the counter, just serving, no one's even in there, and I buy a drink or something, and she looks at me and she's like, "That's me." And I said, "What's that?" And she said, "Your hat, that's me." And I said, "What's it say?" And she said, "Fear My Heart." And I said, "Really?" And she said, "Yeah, that's that." And then she went, told me this little story, and I just got like goosebumps, and I'm like, I walked out of there, and that's when it was never this. I was like, that's crazy that it she picked that, and she said, "That's me." And I'm like, this isn't just a sports thing or a thing. This is anyone, because people do things from their heart all the time, whether it's looking after kids or doing something, that's just not selfish, or that's beyond, what anyone else is capable, but they have that thing. And I think it's going to help a lot of people one day.
I know it is, and I know it already has. We'll go on for hours and hours, so I better end this at some point. But dude, you're special, dude.
Means a lot, mate. I always enjoy catching up. We'll have to always do it more often. Hopefully we can finish the year strong and get the Aussies back in Oklahoma, tear that city up.
Oh, I believe you're going to. I believe you're going to, and I believe they are going to. You got and hey, again, how many years? You're in the Classic Cut with 2 events left to go. They're Lake Champlain and the St. Lawrence River. If at the beginning of how many seasons, if I'd have been GD and been able to land and say, "Hey, Carl, you want to be inside the Classic Cut going into the last 2, and these are where we're going," you'd say, "Where do I sign up?"
Hell yeah. Let's go.
There's only one Carl Jocumsen, but dude, your waves are being felt all around the world, and I'm thankful you're my friend.
Thanks, mate. Means a lot.
Well, I think that was a very real, a very honest, and a very open conversation about some stuff that you don't hear people talk about very often, and can be tough to talk about. So I thank Carl Jocumsen for his incredible honesty and openness on this show, and for all of those of you out there chasing dreams or dealing with a situation. I mean, along with chasing those dreams comes some nightmares, and I think just hearing that it happens to everybody else will hopefully make some of you feel better. because Carl Jocumsen loves his life. Carl Jocumsen loves what he does. And his biggest concern going into this show was that I don't want to sound like I'm whinging, very Australian word, but whinging about my life. But he wasn't. He was just being open and honest about some of the trials and tribulations you're going to face when you chase a dream. And it may not just be a dream. It may be, you may be dealing with something in your life that you had nothing to do with. It's just a family member's got themselves in a situation that's bringing you down. But if the one thing that stands out to me about Carl Jocumsen and this whole week is get your foot out of the trailer, figurative trailer. Obviously, when Carl was telling his story, he didn't want to leave the trailer for multiple days and just stay in there in the dark. Get your foot out of the trailer, because whatever you're battling, as my wife says, everybody's always battling something. It gets better when you get out, when you interact with people, when you make that step out of the trailer. So please, don't spend the time in the dark. Hopefully that helps somebody. And Carl Jocumsen has helped so many people. His brand, Fear My Heart, support it, because it's all good. It's about what's good in the world. And if you wonder what Fear My Heart meant, I mean, the dude moved to a country to chase a dream and had never even thrown a jig. So yes, he had some shortcomings to overcome, but you better fear his heart. And if you go into a battle with a fearful heart, you will always be a very, very strong opponent. You got a good shot. I mean, your heart is where it all starts with. So hopefully this show helped a few people. If it did, make sure you give us a like and a thumbs up and stuff like that. I mean, I don't need the like personally. I love the comments. It's nice to interact. I try to get back to all of you. But let's stroke the algorithm a little bit, because this is the kind of show that needs to be seen. In a world where everybody wants to throw up just controversy balls. That sounded weird, but this is a positive show showing what really it's like. Sometimes it's tough when you're chasing a dream, but keep chasing. As always, have a great week. Enjoy being Bob Cobb. Take it away.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because Bob Cobb of the Bassmasters told you to. You hear?